Well, hello everyone out there in the football world. We are the Head Couch Analysts coming at you with another episode. Week 4 has passed by, meaning we are 25% of the way through the NFL season. I am your host, Sanders, and I am joined by Andrew Pardue. I almost forgot his name for a second. Jeez, I've known the guy for 10 years, and I almost forgot your name. I'm sorry, man. How you doing?
Well, I'm hanging in there. Got told I can have the rest of the week off, so my weekend's starting a bit early, so not bad.
Right in time for Thursday Night Football. How about that?
It's Thursday Night Football, so we'll see what we get.
I mean, I thought last Thursday's game was pretty good. It was supposed to be utter shit, and it turned out to be a 37-28 banger, so, yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
It was fine, he says. I thought it was really entertaining. So, I mean, it was way more points. Dude, I was expecting a 10-13 shit show, and we got 37-28. I'm pretty good with that.
You're not wrong.
We got a huge running play by Sam Darnold. We got a couple pick sixes. You know, it was a good time. We had Melvin Gordon popping off, which was cool for my fantasy team. But, I had a good time Thursday night. It was actually enjoyable for me, so... I myself have been enjoying my break as a teacher. It is our fall break this week, so we go back on Monday. But in the meantime, I've just been relaxing, doing some projects at home and stuff like that. But as usual, you guys are not here to hear about our lives. You are here to hear about football. So let's get right into it. Pardue's got some stuff to open up with us, and we're going to have some key talking points, and we'll get to our usual check down, first down, Hail Mary, along with our predictions. So start us off. What you got for us?
First things first, I know we did quite a long segment about it last week, and I don't want to spend a whole hell of a lot of time on it this week, but obviously the number one story in the NFL today is a little bit more of the COVID news. First things first, the Titans were supposed to open up their wow, I cannot talk today. Facility. They were supposed to open up their facility again today and return to practice for the first time in over a week. But that didn't happen because they had 2 more positive tests come out this morning. Also turns out that the day after their operations were shut down, that multiple players had a private, undisclosed workout, obviously breaking COVID protocol and rules for the NFL. So, number one, not a good look, not only for the Titans, but for the NFL. And now, obviously, there's going to be repercussions on the Titans given their situation, because we talked about it last week, and I said I'm blaming the Titans for this, because if you're getting that if the infections is really taking over that much of your locker room, it's you aren't following the protocols closely enough. So I'm blaming them. That being said, there's going to be a punishment. And I've even heard, I was listening to the Arizona sports radio station today, that the punishment might even be they have to forfeit their game to the Buffalo Bills this weekend. And I mean, honestly, if that's what it takes, I'm not all for it, but you can't reschedule this game anymore. You've already had to shift around their bye, and the NFL doesn't have the luxury of being able to play double headers or play 2 games in 1 week. Because if you do that, if you're making these football players play 2 games in 1 week, you can throw the whole, we care about player safety out the window. Because if you're making players do that, you don't care. So with all that in mind, it would be a real shame if the Titans' first loss came at the hands of COVID. But, I mean, you got to follow the rules. And in other news, in other teams, we got our second case in the Patriots, that being Stephon Gilmore. And, of course, everybody's freaking out because Stephon Gilmore was seen hugging the NFL's darling Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game on Tuesday night. So we don't know if Patrick Mahomes has it yet. It'll probably still take a couple days before we really know for sure when that test comes down. Obviously, praying and hoping for the best, but it's not a good look for the league right now. And I'm fairly confident that no matter what, the NFL is going to make it through this and finish the season. But number one, at what cost? Number two, how many teams are going to not be affected by this by the end of the year? And number three, is it going to put an asterisk at the end with whoever wins a championship? What do you think?
I mean, I think this whole year places an asterisk across all sports, if I'm being quite honest with you. But I don't think it'll be such a big asterisk that it takes away the accomplishment from anybody, because anytime we've ever placed asterisks on years, we've never actually said those teams don't deserve that championship, right? Like, no one in the NBA says the Heat didn't deserve their championship when the Heat won back in 2010. And I think their schedule was shortened by 18 games or some shit like that, right? Like, and I mean, that was for everyone, but no one said, oh, because sometimes in the NBA, right, it takes like the second half or the last third of the season for a team to turn on. And in that season, no one got that last third season to turn it on and potentially make a run. But no one is sitting here saying, oh, well, you know, if the Knicks had gotten those last 18 games, they would have made a run instead. Or maybe it would have happened with the Bucks or the Cavaliers. No one's saying that. We just say, not. The Heat won a championship because they had LeBron. Like, that's just what we say. And I'm sure 10 years from now, right, it'll be, oh, yeah, that was the COVID season, but, like, this team who won the championship overcame everything. They followed safety protocol or whatever. So, you know, and they were one of the best teams while following safety protocols. So, like, whatever, dude. Who knows? Maybe the Patriots win the Super Bowl this year, and they were affected by COVID. Like, they could win the Super Bowl. Honestly, the best team is still going to win. Well, let's be honest. In the case of the Titans, I feel like they're going to be the outlier, not the common thing that's going to happen. Kind of like how the Marlins were the outlier and not the common thing happening in baseball.
They weren't necessarily an outlier because a lot of the teams did get affected, and the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals, were affected on that level as well. I think more cases are going to happen to more teams. I don't think it's going to be as widespread on an individual team as it is the Titans, as long as, you know, teams are following safety protocols as much as they possibly can. It's just very obvious at this point, you know, about a week later after all this has come out, about a week and a half, that the Titans were doing something wrong. And then the whole news about them doing a practice after they were shut down, the Titans fucked up.
Yeah. So I think there's one thing to take away from it is there are teams who are following the rules, like people like Seattle who've had zero, you know, reports. They kind of set the tone when it was just a sixth rounder, but when they cut the sixth rounder rookie immediately for trying to bring someone into the hotel room, it's very clear like the teams who have taken it seriously have not taken any punishment, right? They pretty much said, this is how it is, this is the precedent, follow it, or don't play for us. So what else you got for us?
Honestly, I don't have a whole lot. I thought it was a pretty average week in the NFL. I mean, I could go on in my whole rant and sob story about the Cardinals that I gave you a little while ago before we started recording, but I'll spare our audience. But other than that, honestly, I feel like it's a pretty slow news day this week in terms of NFL news. If anything, I'm going to start questioning the coaching staff and if any wholesale changes are soon going to be coming to the Dallas Cowboys with the way that defense is playing. And I know you have some thoughts on that as well.
Do you want me to go on that rant?
I mean, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh boy, I don't want to talk about Dallas, but here we go. So I'm gonna cut it to the nitty gritty. You have allowed 39, 38, and 49 points respectively in the last 3 games. I've never been one who calls for someone's head immediately. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you might think, yeah, you do, Sanders. You call for Adam Gase's head. Well, I've been calling for his head since day one. Ever since
I mean, that's obviously justified.
Ever since he was introduced and he had his eyes flying around during the whole introduction, I was like, God, this is not the hire. The Jets screwed themselves for the next 2 years minimum. And hey, look where we are. But the other thing is that it's unacceptable for your defense to allow that many points. You have an offense who could set the league on fire, and frankly, has scored enough points to theoretically set the league on fire. Correct? Yes. However, your defense is literally a dumpster fire and has gotten set on fire because your schemes suck. Jalen Smith is now ranked the 45th best linebacker in the NFL. Tell me, Andrew, is Jalen Smith the 45th best linebacker in the NFL? No, he's not. You want to know Who is the 45th best linebacker? Probably some secondary rotational player, not Jalen Smith. But he is right now because the scheme sucks. Mike Nolan is not the answer. They need to fire Mike Nolan. They're not going to, though, because they already said they're not going to make any moves. And my fear, looking at their schedule, is that they go 3-1 in their next 4 games. They head into their bye at 4-4, thinking everything's okay, and then they get blown up by the Steelers, they get blown up by the Ravens, and they get blown up by the Vikings, and they wonder, well, what happened? Well, it's because you weren't playing real offenses. Come on, man. Either way, the Cowboys have screwed themselves for the year. That's my take on that.
All right. I know you got some big takeaways and talking points for this week, so how about you throw them at me?
All right, so I think it's odd that you said a relatively quiet news week, and I think everybody forgot about this because it's not that heavily talked about. But Bill O'Brien got fired.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. I've already put out my thoughts on the show's Twitter. I think this was an overreaction. You were handled one of the toughest, or not one of, the toughest beginning schedule in having to play the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Steelers. And yeah, you lost to the Vikings too, but like, it was not like it was a bad game. Like, Bill O'Brien got handed a bad hand, I think. And when you tell someone that they can be the general manager,
no. Now wait, I wouldn't say he was handed necessarily a bad hand. His hand was his own hand. He drew it himself, if you ask me.
Well, let me finish first, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Let me finish this, because we have seen in the past where teams do mind-boggling things, absolutely wild things, and we're like, why the hell are they doing that? This is stupid. What in the world is going on? And it's worked out fine later on. I think the Rams are a great example of that. They've made so many trades and so many like dealings in the past 5 years, and we've always said, what the fuck are the Rams doing? Well, they went to a Super Bowl. Yeah, they had a down year at 9-7, 9-7, and they're doing just fine this year. Mm-hmm. Like, the product, a couple years after what looked like disaster, is pretty good for the Rams right now. We've wondered that with the Patriots, and it's always worked out for them. I remember when we were questioning what Miami was doing, selling all their talent, because we're like, wait, you got a good thing going on. What are you doing? And now we realize, oh, they're in a rebuild mode. They're trying to rebuild a culture around Brian Flores, and we'll see what happens with Tua. So often, we have questioned why teams make trades and why things happen, and it turns out that it's usually okay. Now, I'm not going to tell you the DeAndre Hopkins trade was a good trade. I'm not here to tell you that. What I am here to tell you is that we only saw 4 games of Bill O'Brien's vision, and he was fired after it. 4 games. And it's not like Bill O'Brien didn't have success in the past. He has been the most successful coach the Texans have ever had. He has done a great job of developing Deshaun Watson. I understand they had a rough start. I understand, but you have to take into context that they played like 3 of the best teams in the AFC. You have to take into context that they haven't even played a divisional game yet, which is what matters most. I'm bothered by the fact that they didn't let his vision go out for the full year, because usually when you fire a head coach this early, you're telling the team, hey, we still want to win. I'm sorry, at 0-4, you're probably not going to win. If they'd played the season out, and let's say they finished 6-10, 7-9, and they kept him around for one more year just to see what he was going to do the following year, saying, hey, let my vision go out, and if it didn't look good in the first 4 games of the second year, cool. You've seen 20 games, you've seen enough, fire him. I'm bothered by the fact that they've only seen 4 games of what this team looks like with him as general manager. Does it look good with the Hopkins trade? I agree. No, it does not. But 4 games is not a good enough sample size to fire a head coach like this. He will have another job, and he probably will be successful elsewhere. I'll tell you that right now. So that's my thing on the Texans.
Here's my thoughts, and to an extent, I agree and I understand what you're saying. Because to me, when I look at the firing in itself in a nutshell, I think it's premature because yes, I do think while I think his vision is blurred, whatever his vision was, whatever his plan was, it didn't look good. And starting off 0-4 definitely doesn't look good. But like you said, he was playing some of the best competition in his conference. Hadn't played a division game yet. So to a point, yes, you're making a very good argument as to why it's too early, and I tend to agree. But did you hear about the fight that
with
J.J. Watt? At that point, he's already lost the team. He's already lost the team. And if the coach has already 100% fully lost the team, move on. Maybe it'll provide the team a spark. But so I'm not for the firing of Bill O'Brien. And I mean, hey, I'm forever going to love Bill O'Brien. Thank you for DeAndre Hopkins. Bill O'Brien is my guy. But I do think the firing is a bit premature. But in a way, I see and I understand because he already lost the team. The team wasn't playing for him anymore, and they didn't care about Bill O'Brien. And so from an ownership standpoint and a team standpoint, I get it. Don't necessarily agree because I think you do got to let it play out. But if the players aren't even going to give a shit, I mean, there's not much left to play for at that point.
Yeah, I can see that side. You know, when you don't have a locker room, like, you know, I think it's pretty obvious if you don't have a locker room, it's over, right? You always need to have a locker room. There's a difference between a losing team that has a team that wants to play for their coach and a losing team who doesn't believe in the coach's message anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like how Sherman didn't look all that great in his last year with Seattle, but it's just because he didn't believe in Pete Carroll's message anymore. And then he goes to San Francisco and he looks pretty good. You know, as a player, you have to buy into the system, right? It's all about buying in, which is why great coaches last a while, which is why Belichick's culture has lasted forever. Harbaugh's culture has lasted for, 12 years now? Mike Tomlin's has lasted for, is it 14? Tomlin's been there for 14, right?
Yeah, he's been there a pretty long time.
Yeah,
I can't give you an exact number, but
Pete Carroll's been there, I think, since 2007, right? Pete Carroll's been there?
I want to say 2008 because I don't think he was – because 2007 was – no, it wasn't. It was 2006. It might have been 2007.
Yeah, but, you know, all these long-time coaches, like, they're there because they established a culture and players keep buying into it. So maybe Bill O'Brien's culture wasn't exactly what everyone wanted anymore. But I definitely feel like there's something to be said about there being an overreaction. And that does affect his career for the rest of time, right? Like, his next job, he may not get a say about personnel at all, which might be a bad thing because he's the head coach, right? As the head coach, you should get some say. Maybe not permanent say,
right,
but you should get some say. So it is what it is. They made the decision. We'll see how it goes from here. One comment I wanted to make on Washington. I hate that they said Kyle Allen is starting. Not because I don't think Dwayne Haskins deserves a full season. Dwayne Haskins is getting Josh Rosen, more or less. New coach comes in. New coach gives you
it's not his guy.
Not much of a chance. It's not his guy. You didn't play well. Moving on. I hate that they're starting Kyle Allen, though. Starting Kyle Allen tells me you've given up on the season. I wish they were starting Alex Smith. This is a perfectly winnable division. I think Alex Smith can help you win this division.
It is. Don't get me wrong. I really like Alex Smith, and I love the comeback story and all that. Have you really looked at his leg, dude? I don't think he can play.
I mean, he's the backup for this Sunday.
And I know he is. They demoted Haskins all the way down to the third-string quarterback, but man, I don't know if he. And we're not necessarily gonna know. And I mean, until he is forced into a situation where he has to play. But dude, I don't know. That leg injury ended players' careers before, and the pictures, it's still bent and weird looking now, dude.
I mean, if he can run and still do full practices, I would say it's probably fine. You may be, and probably very well are right. But honestly, I don't know if I would, because honestly, I think Alex Smith
at least by the last we saw of him, gives them the best chance to win. But he's not going to be the guy that we saw last, no matter what.
Oh, no.
He's been out of the league for over a year, and he had a career-altering and what will end up being a life-altering leg injury.
Well, what I'm saying, though, is the move tells me that you don't care about winning this year, which kind of bothers me in such a bad division. Like, if they were 1-3 and fourth in division and everyone else had like 2 wins or 3 wins and there was a 4-0 team, I'd say, yeah, okay, pull the plug. Start Kyle Allen, let him play out the games, see if Kyle Allen's worthy of, keeping around as a backup or not, fine. But the division title is kind of in your grasp. And this move tells me you don't care that it's there. This move that tells me, yeah, whatever, moving on. We're on next year.
I think as of right now, because to be honest, I would say Alex Smith gives them the best chance to win, but I don't know what he's going to be if he ever gets on the field again. So to me, as of right now, I would say Kyle Allen probably gives them the best chance to win because I don't like Dwayne Haskins. I never have liked Dwayne
He's an
Haskins.
Ohio State quarterback. You shouldn't like Ohio State quarterbacks, ever.
Justin Fields is going to be a good quarterback, though. Don't disrespect that man.
Dude, as an Ohio State fan, you know how many times I've been told that my college quarterback is going to do well in the NFL, and then they proceed to suck every time. I won't believe it
but
till
has
I see
anybody
it.
ever said that about Haskins?
Yeah, he was always in the top 5 conversation.
Maybe in college, but I didn't see many people giving the opinion of Dwayne Haskins being a successful NFL quarterback. Anyway, I think Kyle Allen, as of right now, because we don't know what Alex Smith is, gives the Redskins the best chance to win. I'm not going to say the Redskins are going to go on some crazy winning streak and win their division, but I think it gives them a better chance than Haskins.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I also trust Ron Rivera. I don't think this dude's got cancer and he's going out there every Sunday and coaching up this football team to the best of his abilities. I don't think he's just going to mail it in. Maybe to you this tells you that they're waving the white flag, but to me it doesn't. I don't think it really helps their chances. But I think it's they're doing something. I think they'll. I'm not sure how I want to put it because I'm not saying it's gonna be like a monumental great change for them or something like that, or it's gonna be a vast improvement. I think it gives them a better chance.
As I say, if you're looking to just say it's better than Haskins, then I can agree. But that's all I can agree to.
Right.
Next one I wanted to talk about was Cleveland. Man, if I was a national sports analyst like Stephen A. Smith, I'd come out in my bling and my swagger. I'd come out and say, how about them Cowboys? And how about them 3-1 Cleveland Browns? And I'd go on about how people clowned on me for saying they were going to be a winning team this year. That I believed in the Stefanski hire. I would be all on my high horse. Unfortunately, we don't have that high crowd, so I'm not going to be that high on my high horse. However, I would like to say this is the exact team I envisioned. I said it last week, I'll say it again. A team that runs the ball, allows Baker to make a few plays, and what's funny was they did all these trick plays and they didn't even need them to beat the Cowboys. Like, Baker could have thrown that pass instead of Landry to Odell Beckham, and the same result would have happened. Right? Like, Baker can make that throw that Landry made. Right? Baker,
easily.
Yeah, Baker makes that throw. My point being is, this is a good Browns team. It's a solid team. And unfortunately for them, I had them 9-7 possibly making the playoffs. They might not make the playoffs at 9-7. You have to think to yourself, all right, in the AFC, you have the Chiefs winning their division, the Ravens or the Steelers winning their division, right? And then you have the Bills probably winning their division, and most likely the Titans or the Colts winning their division. Okay, so there's going to be 3 wild card spots, right? Well, one's got to go to the Ravens or Steelers, right? One's got to probably go to the Patriots. And then the third one, that's a toss-up between the Titans or Colts, whoever doesn't win that division. Maybe the Browns, or, quite possibly the Raiders. Like, there's like 3 teams up for that 7th spot. And 9-7 may or may not cut it. So I feel bad that, like, even though I'm, like, really high on them and I think this would be a cool team to watch in the playoffs, because a run game defensive minded football team is exactly what you want in January.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what you want in January. I'd feel really bad if the Browns didn't make it, because that's a team that Cleveland can be excited about. They'd be in the playoffs for the first time in forever, and they'd have the dynamic playmakers to do it. I think they'd be awesome January football. But with where the AFC is at, that might not happen right now, which is so weird to say. That's not something we've said in the past for a long time. We haven't said that for like 8+ years. That because of where the AFC is at. Because normally the AFC is okay. It's usually very top heavy, and that's it. But there's some middle teams to definitely talk about this year. So I do want to say that I like where the Browns are. I am very afraid of them. I fear for them when a shootout happens. I don't think they can win a shootout. What do you think?
Well, honestly, I have a big Browns take coming up in a later segment.
Sure.
So I don't want to get too far into it. I think what I'm going to say is going to shock you.
Sure.
And maybe make you a little mad, to
sure.
be quite honest.
Sure.
But I will say, honestly, I think that offense is going to continue to develop and get better as the year goes on. Maybe as of right now, they can't win a shootout. But one big thing that I'm starting to notice is Odell Beckham's starting to come alive in that offense.
You mean he's starting to buy in? He has a coach to buy into?
Yes, he's starting to buy in, and he's starting to look like that Odell Beckham that was in New York. And if that happens, this offense has an extremely dynamic playmaker to pair with Baker, as well as Landry, as well as Austin Hooper. And I know Nick Chubb is down right now. I don't quite remember what that injury is, but I know he's on IR, so he's going to miss some time.
So he's out for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Who cares?
So he's going to miss some.
Hunt.
Exactly. They still have Kareem Hunt. But when Chubb comes back, they still have the best two-headed monster in the backfield in football. Honestly, that's a very dangerous offense. I really like Baker Mayfield. I think he's finally in a situation where he's going to finally get the development and coaching he needs, which he's lacked throughout his career thus far. I've said it before. I've always really liked Baker. I've met him in person. He was a really nice guy. So I think, given the situation, if this offense continues to get better and they continue to become more dynamic, it's going to fall on Baker's shoulders a little bit more now that he is missing Nick Chubb. I know he still has Kareem Hunt, but Baker Mayfield, this is going to be very soon. It's going to start becoming his offense again, and we're going to see if he steps up to the plate or not. I think maybe not now, but in a few weeks, they could win a shootout against some teams in this league.
I think my favorite thing about Baker Mayfield this year is he has not said a word.
Mm-hmm.
They are winning, and he has not said a word. That's all I asked for was for him to mature up, and he has stayed course. I think someone asked him about how, like, he hasn't, like, done a ton in their wins, right? And his response was, who cares, we're winning. It's the right attitude to have. I love it. Love it. This is so different from rookie year Baker, and I love it a ton. It's nice to see. Buffalo. Okay, so I don't know if this would be considered a takeaway or whatever, but after week 4, there's a trend with Buffalo that concerns me, that belies their 4-0 start. Don't get me wrong, right? Don't take this as me hating on Buffalo, okay? I think the Buffalo has the chance to beat Baltimore. They could beat the Steelers. They could beat the Chiefs. They could beat anybody. I think the Bills are a good enough team. Now, when I say they could beat the Chiefs, I mean they could outscore the Chiefs. They have the offense to do that. I don't think they could stop Patrick Mahomes. I think only Bill Belichick has proven that. But I think the Bills have the offense to, blow up.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially outscore them, let's say 38-35 or something like that. Behind the miracle that Josh Allen has been this year has been him disguising that this top defense has not been a top defense recently. And hear me out for a second. Watch some of the tape, and you'll see that this defense isn't as clamped down as it used to be. And there's been some teams scoring some points on them. Hell, this defense almost blew a 28-3 lead. to the Rams. They let the Raiders score some points on them later on when they shouldn't have. Which is why I said I don't think they can limit Patrick Mahomes. By the way, the best Thursday night football game we'll have this year is the Chiefs and the Bills. It's next Thursday. It's 8 days away. That'll be a great game. But I think that might be the game that the Bills defense gets exposed. This isn't the Bills defense of yesteryear, 2 years ago. This isn't the Bills defense that carried a Tyrod Taylor Bills to 9-7. And that kind of concerns me. This is not a complete team. Now they have a chance to fix that up, but I think people should be made aware that Josh Allen is making up for the fact this defense is not as good as it's been in the past couple of years. It's still pretty good. It is not smothering like it was.
Right.
I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but I have.
And that's something I have noticed too. I haven't put a lot of thought into it yet, and maybe because it has been masked by Josh Allen and that offense. Because they still got some really great players, so I don't want to disregard it as if they're not still a good defense. I just don't think they maybe they just haven't been performing to their potential quite yet, and maybe it'll come around. I'm not too worried about it quite yet. If it's week 8, week 9, week 10, and we still haven't seen much of an improvement or it's gotten worse, okay, then you can, press the panic button on him. So I'm not quite too worried about it yet, but I do definitely see the trend and where you're going with your statement.
Yeah. So I like I said, I think they'll get exposed next Thursday. I think anybody can get exposed by the Chiefs. That might be a terrible example.
I wouldn't even say it's initially exposing. I mean, dude, it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Good luck.
But for a defense that was supposed to rival New England's, if New England can slow them down and you can't, well, that's kind of a rut row. Because if you want to go to the Super Bowl, you better be able to beat the Chiefs, right? You can't pray that New England beats them before you do. You just got to be ready to beat them. And if New England beats the Chiefs in the playoffs, then hey, you don't have to face them. But you can't hope that that's the outcome, right? You have to be able to beat everyone. And I'm concerned that if Josh Allen has an off day and you meet an offense that's going to blow you up, you're not going to win the game. But that's just how I see Buffalo right now. But they're off to a fantastic 4-0 start. Josh Allen has looked like an MVP. I'm actually very scared that Josh Allen continues his ways and steals the MVP from Russell Wilson. The sports world loves...
Still got to get through Aaron Rodgers first.
The sports world loves stories. The sports world loves stories, and right now Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers' story is better than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has played the best of all three of them and deserves the MVP 4 weeks in. But I guarantee you right now there's people who would vote for Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers simply because it's Josh Allen's breakout year, and that's amazing, or it's Aaron Rodgers' vengeance year. It's so sad how stories tend to take over MVP conversations. And I'm not saying Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be deserving of it, but it would be doing Russell Wilson a disservice, who, by the way, has matched the only other quarterback to throw for 16 touchdowns in his first 4 games, which was Peyton Manning's legendary 2013 year when that Denver offense broke so many records. We are currently watching Russell Wilson be as good as Peyton Manning was that year.
Yep.
And that was arguably one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen by a quarterback. Russell Wilson's doing it right now. And it would be very sad if he doesn't get the MVP because a storyline was better than his. Last point I wanted to make, and this isn't so much a point as much as it is a wish. I want the Dolphins to start 2-0 already. I'm done with this. Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't your answer, right? He never was going to be. But at this point, why aren't we starting Tua? If you don't want to start him against the 49ers this week, I get it. But after that, I don't know, man. I think you just need to start him. Seriously. Just bite the bullet. See what he is. You play the Broncos. Perfect team for Tua to play against, in week 6, right? And then in week 7, I want to say they play the Jets or something like that. They go from the Broncos to the Jets, if I remember correctly. Nope, they don't go to the Jets. They go to the Chargers. Oh, and then they go to the Jets after that. Broncos, Chargers, Jets. And start Tua. It's not really like an analysis or anything. It's just you're 4 games in. You're going to be 5 games in. You're only going to have 11 games left. Let's see what your rookie quarterbacks got, especially because Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are doing so well. Right? The Chargers are already saying, hey, Justin Herbert looks like he's going to be our guy at least for another year or 2. We'll see what he does in his second and third year. Joe Burrow looks like he's going to be the guy at least for the next couple of years. We'll see what he does in year 2 or 3. The Dolphins right now have zero idea. No clue on evaluating their top 5 pick. They need to get it done. I think there needs to be pressure to play to it. And there's no reason to watch Miami games right now. None. You have the Miami Heat, who's in the finals. I'm sure Miami fans would rather watch that. You have, I believe, the Marlins.
With the way the finals are going and the ratings they've been getting, probably not.
I'm talking about from Miami specifically.
Right, yeah, no.
And then you have the Marlins, that are in the playoffs right now. Like, what would you rather watch? Playoff, sports, or just a regular Joe Schmo Miami game that has, no reason to watch it? If you put in Tua, that immediately brings in viewers. It's something new. It's something fresh. It's the future. What does it look like? I mean, maybe you don't want to watch the Marlins get smacked by the Braves, and maybe you don't want to watch the Heat get beat by the Lakers, but I think playoff sports is way more entertaining than just a regular season game that doesn't mean much. And that's where the Dolphins are at right now. Yeah? No?
I mean, they say he's 100%. I'm also still wondering if maybe they are concerned about the hip. Because, we haven't heard anything about Tua in a while, even rumors that they're looking to start him. So maybe they're concerned about the hip, maybe not. But yeah, I agree. When else do you put him in? You guys are competing for anything this year. Better now than never. Got to get him some time and get some reps at point anyway. Because if you want to compete next year, because the Dolphins theoretically could compete next year. As of right now, they got 2 top 5 picks in the draft next year, or this upcoming draft. So you're going to get some more pieces on this team. So you might want to start getting some reps now so you can get some experience so you can potentially be ready to compete next year. But, I don't run the franchise, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, those are just some points I wanted to bring up for the NFL season. Let's get to our check down, first down, and Hail Mary for this week. My check down, I'll start first this time around. My check down for this week. Okay, my most obvious takeaway from everything that happened last week is it looks like we're headed towards a State Farm Super Bowl, which would be a wet dream if you were the CEO of State Farm. It really helps when, the 2 guys from the NFL that represent you are 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Aaron Rodgers is having himself a year. Quite a year. He was without his number 1 and number 2 receiver and still casually just dropped 30 points down on the Falcons. Very casually. It didn't even look like it was high effort. Just very casually. And the Chiefs, what can you say about the Chiefs, right? They went out and I think they under the circumstance, they may or may not have lost to Newton. I feel like they would have. I think the Patriots would have been much more competitive. But you know what? Fourth quarter, Mahomes always makes some magic, so who knows? That could have happened too. Either way, they're 4-0. They're living high. It looks like we're headed to a Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl. As of right now, that's what I would think it would happen. Now, there's still 12 games to be played, and you have to play the playoffs. But if the season ended today, that would be my pick.
So for me, it's funny enough that you mentioned that. I was thinking, because my check down is just flat out Aaron Rodgers. Everything he is doing this season is absolutely incredible. He's lighting the league on fire. I've been extremely impressed with what he's done. And you said it earlier in the podcast. It's his revenge tour. His franchise that he's been with his entire career goes out and drafts what presumably is the player who's going to usurp him in the next year or so in Jordan Love, and now he's coming out and having a career year, and having by far the best season he's probably had in the last 2 or 3 years, or at least since, I mean, you want to say 2015. He's playing lights out, and I don't think we've ever seen Aaron Rodgers have this much fun through the first month of the season. And if you're going to have Aaron Rodgers having fun right now, playing like this, good luck, NFC, because that Packers team's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I know like you don't really listen to the Pat McAfee show, but I do. But starting like 3 weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers is now a guest on the show every Tuesday. I think that's because of AJ Hawk. As part of the Pat McAfee show. But they've secured Aaron Rodgers to be on the show every Tuesday. So when that's basically a player's day off is Monday, Tuesday. He said, he kind of made a bold statement saying, my down years are still like other QB's career years, and he's not wrong. He didn't say it in like a dickish way, but he was just kind of saying like something obvious. His down years are other QB's career years. He's not wrong, right? But something he said on the show, which I think kind of made me view him in a different light than I have in the years past, is he said this offseason, he said he shut off his phone. He said he didn't talk to a lot of people, and he took a lot of time for himself, and he said he decided to find some inner peace within himself. He said he wanted to not be so angry at things not working on the field, and he wanted to be more understanding of the things that went on around him. And he chose to, instead of being angry about the draft choice, because he said he was at first, to just be at peace with it and just work with what he had. And frankly, he's working with what he's got. His receivers look better. The tight end, I don't even remember the tight end's name from last night, just came out of nowhere. And he's working with nobodies. And he's playing well with nobodies. I think he's probably grown as a leader, which is weird to say at his age. And it's very clear that he now likes his coach, because he said in a post-game interview that he really likes the schemes that are going on, and he thinks that the game plans are great. That's translation, I like my coach. He's just happy. I think he's at peace, he's happy, and he's fine with where Green Bay's at. And I don't think he has a problem now at this point with how Green Bay has handled things in the past. It's kind of amazing how well you can perform in life once you've accepted what's in front of you, which he has done. Not to get like introspective on this episode or anything, but I think that's a huge reason. He took the human side of himself and decided to be better instead of cocky like he was in the past.
That's all I got on that one, if you're ready to move on.
Yeah. What's your first down?
So my first down is Cowboys aren't winning that division. They're not. So, and it's kind of a toss-up to who is. Because I don't believe in the Eagles. I sure as hell don't believe in the Redskins or Giants. But with how bad that defense is playing, historically bad that defense is, there's no way in hell, man. Like, Dak can put up 50 points every single game he wants. It's obviously not working. They are one lucky onside kick away from being 0-4.
Well, no. 0-4. Don't say lucky. Game. They're one no effort onside kick.
Yeah. It's not a good team. They're not being well coached. You know how I feel about Mike McCarthy. I know you hate Mike Nolan, and it's obvious that he's not getting the job done because this defense is so well equipped. They have great players all around. And Aldon Smith, after not playing for 4-5 years, was leading the NFL in sacks through 4 weeks. And you're still, it's just so bad, man. And like, I don't like the Eagles, but 7 wins is probably going to end up being enough to win this division. If we're being quite honest with ourselves with how they've been performing, how this division has performed. And it's really, it's anyone's division, because any of these teams, you could see them realistically winning 7 games. But I'll tell you right now, the Cowboys ain't winning that division. What do you think?
I don't want to say anything about the NFC East, actually, because, dude, mathematically the Giants can win this division at 0-4. That's where it's at. And I feel like I want to give it to the team with the best roster, which is Dallas. But at the same time, you can't be blowing that many points away every week. It's just not possible to win that way. And they're saying that. They're 1-3. Another side to this is I think the Eagles, they started 0-2-1. They looked bad. And they looked okay Sunday night. I kind of want to watch the Eagles more first. I want to see more of their games. Unfortunately, they play the Steelers and the Ravens, which is not a good thing for them. I want to see how the Eagles play against the lower tier teams. If they can be a 7-8-1 squad, I wouldn't be opposed to them hosting a playoff game, because we did see a 7-8-1 squad. I think it was 6 years ago, host a playoff game. It was the Packers, if you remember that. They were 7-8-1 when they hosted a playoff game. I remember you were mad about that because I think the Cardinals went 9-7 and they didn't get into the playoffs that year. But the Packers did it 7-8-1 because they won their division. I think I remember you blew up on social media that day. I remember you were furious.
Yeah, it probably was. Bullshit.
So, yeah, I wouldn't be totally opposed to it. I mean, they'd probably get smacked and slammed, but whatever. I think the NFC East is a write-off this year. They might win a wild card game, but they're not going to get any farther than the wild card. If anything, they are fodder for a wild card upset for a story going into the divisional round, only to get smacked into the divisional round. That's how I see any NFC East winner being. I feel like that's a pretty good take, no?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, alrighty. Hail Marys. I did my Hail Mary first last time. Let's hear yours this time.
For this?
I'm so ready for it.
All right, so I said it was going to be about the Browns. I'm going to say it right now. And there's a reason this is a Hail Mary. The Browns are going to very, very closely challenge the Ravens for that division.
I thought you were saying they were going to win the division, because I was like, dude.
Oh, no. I'm not going to go that far. Not quite that far. But they're going to be right there with the Ravens.
You know, I'm kind of with you. So, like, I kind of was thinking, you know what? Do you want me to just say my Hail Mary, actually? Because ours actually goes hand in hand. The AFC North is going to have 3 playoff teams this year. The Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns.
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand, I think, with what we were saying. Now, again, it's our Hail Mary. It's a hot take, but it's a take that we believe in at the moment, right? Mm-hmm. The Browns look pretty good, dude. Like I said, I'm very happy with my 9-7 prediction for them right now. I'm very happy with it. At 3-1, yeah, mm-hmm. they could easily go 6-6 in their next 12 games. I'm very happy with how they're doing. They could do better. They could go 10-6, right? They could very well be competing with the Steelers and the Ravens and smacking them around. And frankly, how you beat the Ravens right now is you need to be able to beat their blitzing, and you can do that with the running game, which the Browns have. The Steelers and Ravens is always going to be competitive just because of the culture around that too. And the Steelers and the Browns have always been close matchups. Those have always been the games that Mike Tomlin gets criticized for his team playing down, to his opponent. So the AFC North, after 25% of the way through, looks like a blast to me. I'm excited for it as a Ravens fan. I mean, I feel like most fans should say that they're nervous for that. But I'm not. I'm ready to embrace it. I can't wait to watch it. I remember the rookie seasons of Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield, that final Week 17 game that Tony Romo called. It was the one where Baker Mayfield threw an interception to C.J. Mosley, and that's what sealed the deal for the Ravens to make the playoffs. I remember watching that game and being so excited about how back and forth it was, and I was like, if this is what we get for the next 10 years of Lamar Jackson versus Baker Mayfield, I'm here for it. Right? If we get a competitive Browns team versus a competitive Ravens team every single year, and Ravens Steelers isn't the only thing to talk about in that division, I'm hyped. That's exciting to me. I want to see Baker Mayfield do well. I've always been a hater of his attitude. I've never been a hater of him as an athlete. I've always been a hater of him as his attitude, and his attitude doesn't exist this year. So I firmly believe that all three teams can make the playoffs. One will be a division winner, and the other two would be wild cards. Whether it's, 5th seed, 6th seed, 7th seed, doesn't matter to me. Now, the only reason I would say that's kind of bold is because, like I said, the Browns, if they went 9-7, they got the Titans or the Colts to compete with. They've also got the Patriots to compete with, and then they've also got the Raiders to compete with, right? There's not room for everyone. Somebody's going to miss it. And who knows, maybe the Raiders falter, and that goes in the Browns' benefit. Sorry, I took away some of your light. You want to expand on the Browns?
Yeah, so the reason I think the Browns are honestly going to challenge for this division now, I don't think they're going to win it because I think the Ravens are just too good. But I feel pretty confident that they have a very strong chance of at least finishing second, and they're going to give the Ravens a run for their money. I think that the Browns match up very well against the Ravens. Now, I don't think their defense is quite good enough to stop a guy like Lamar in that offense. But that Browns offense it's really good, and it's only going to get better. And like you stated earlier, how down the stretch towards the playoffs and in big games, you want to – what's the word I'm looking – you want a team that can run the ball and win in the trenches, and that's exactly what the Browns are.
Yeah, their offensive line is incredible. Do you remember when I said the teams that improve – I put the Browns in as a wild card as most improved because I loved their draft, and I loved that they drafted linemen for Baker and the running game? Look where we're at now. I hate that their draft got a B-. I gave it an A because I thought it was exactly what they needed. I know you're not supposed to draft needs. You're supposed to draft best player available. But the Browns had such a stacked roster that I thought drafting need was the right call. And I loved their draft. And their rookie on their line is working fantastically. That entire offensive line is killer. Is the entire reason that running game is doing well. Sorry. Anyways, the Browns do excite me. Continue.
But like I was saying, the offense is going to continue to get better, and if Odell Beckham's going to buy in to this offense, he's going to become an extremely dynamic receiver again, and then that's when you're going to need to look out, because if you're going to give Baker Mayfield, in addition to this running game, that's just absolutely insane. If you're going to give Baker Mayfield dynamic weapons like Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, Austin Hooper, I could go on.
David Njoku actually had a touchdown on Sunday too. He still exists.
Mm-hmm. All these players, and if you're going to give Baker Mayfield that, because he's going to get better in this offense, he might not be the key cog in it right now, but at some point he's going to be. He's finally getting his chance to develop and learn in an offense. And once he's in it and knows it and is the guy in it, good luck stopping this offense because teams are already having a hard time.
Is it fair to call them Chiefs light?
I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I see where you're going with that.
Like obviously, okay, poor man's Chiefs. I don't know,
I wouldn't even put them in the same category as Chiefs. I wouldn't put any team in the same category as the Chiefs. But I see what you're saying.
I'm thinking about the dynamicness of the offense, right? It does not match the Chiefs at all. Nobody matches the Chiefs. But when I say light, I mean that, like, the theme is there, the dynamic playmakers, you can win through the run game or the passing game, and the defense is actually way better than you would think. Like Myles Garrett, like I think he sacked Dak Prescott 2-3 times, if I remember correctly. I think it was 2. Like, man, this defense can ball, man, and so can this offense. This is a cool team. I am super happy that the Kevin Stefanski hire is working out so far, and not necessarily because I want to point fingers and say, haha, I was right about the hire. That's not really why. It's because I really liked the offense that Kevin Stefanski ran, and I thought it would be the perfect complement to Baker Mayfield, and so far that's how it's been. I'm a football fan at heart. I will always be a Ravens fan. I have my Joe Flacco jersey. I have my Justin Tucker jersey. I have 5 Ravens shirts, 3 Ravens hats, and I just ordered another Ravens hat last night that says Baltimore Ravens 1996, like a trucker logo, and it's a netted back of the hat. Like, I'm super excited for that hat to come out. I saw that, and I was like, that's mine. It wasn't even a question. It wasn't even an impulse buy, because I sat on it for like 3 hours. I'm like, do I want this hat? Do I want this hat? And then finally I was like, I'm going to hate it if I don't buy this hat, so I bought it. So I'm a Ravens fan through and through. Ravens license plate, Ravens stuff hanging up in my classroom. But I'm also a football fan at heart, and I want to see players that I feel should do well, do well. So I'm happy that Stefanski hire, worked out for Baker. Of course, I will be fearful if the Browns beat the Ravens, and I don't want that to happen. But I can't be mad at a team making the right choice. So I'm all with you, man. I think this Browns team is exciting. It's fun, and Cleveland deserves it. All of these years, they deserve it. I don't think anybody would ever look at the Browns and say, man, fuck the Browns. They shouldn't do anything this year. No. Those are just haters. So, I'm happy for them, dude. I'm actually happy for the AFC North in general. They got 4 decent quarterbacks, and not every division can say they got 4 decent quarterbacks.
That division's on the rise, man. That division as a whole is really on the rise. Give the Bengals one more year or two, and with Joe Burrow, they could be a really dangerous team as well.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we actually are making fantastic times, 57-30, and we're getting to our picks already.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. All right, so let's get to our picks for this week. It is not the Eagles and the Giants. That is week 7. Let's get to week 5 here. Tomorrow night's game, it's going to be Tampa Bay versus the Chicago Bears. Both 3-1 teams. On paper, this looks like a fantastic matchup. Give it some context, I feel like this game is going to be a stomp. Nick Foles showed exactly what we thought he is. He's a guy who, when he comes in, does great things, but when he's asked to be a starter, it's completely different. The erratic and wild Nick Foles showed up yesterday. Keep in mind, this is a coach, Matt Nagy, who has worked with Nick Foles before when Nick Foles was with the Chiefs and Matt Nagy was the offensive coordinator there. I can't imagine a scenario where the Bears beat this Buccaneers team, because this Buccaneers team is pretty good. I understand they gave up 31 points to the Chargers. I also think Justin Herbert's way better than most people are giving him credit for. I know I said I wasn't on board with him yet, but after the last 3 games, I'm pretty on board with Justin Herbert. He threw against a team that wasn't going to allow them to ever run the ball, right? They dared him to beat them through the air, and he did a pretty decent job. Now I understand it was 24-7. They blew a 24-7 lead, and Justin Herbert didn't do much after that. And the Buccaneers defense really clamped up in the second half. Regardless, the Buccaneers proved that they are almost a complete team, I will say. They're not 100% like 1 through 53 complete, but this is a balanced enough team to beat most, if not any, opponent. And the Buccaneers and Chiefs do play this year, so that's awesome. So we'll get to see how the Buccaneers really are when they play top-tier opponents. As for this game against the Bears, where do they win? Where do the Bears win? If you can find me an answer, I'll give the Bears a shot, but I can't find an answer, and that's why I'm picking the Buccaneers. Not because Not just because I think the Buccaneers are the better team, but I can't find a scenario where the Bears win this game outside of Nick Foles just like going Super Bowl mode.
For me, and I don't like Trubisky and I don't like Nick Foles either, but man, the Bears are in a tough spot with their starting quarterback situation. Because I don't know who they should start, quite honestly. I thought it was kind of premature. I know that, but I don't know if that's the right answer for this team. And I mean, obviously, I don't think Trubisky is either, but I thought the polling of Trubisky was a bit premature. And obviously Nick Foles came in and lit it up and led them to a comeback victory, sure. So I guess in the moment it was a right call. But I think going forward, switching between your quarterbacks constantly isn't going to lead this team to success. And if they're going to be going through a quarterback carousel all year, it's going to spell doom for this team that started off 3-0. So going forward, I think the Bears really need to figure out what they want out of their quarterback and their quarterback position, and which quarterback the team is buying into. Obviously, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay, but I think the Bears are in trouble going forward this season if they can't figure out what they're going to do at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. So, next one on Sunday morning is the Rams and the Washington team. I mean, they're starting Kyle Allen. I guess there's that. Does that give me any confidence that they're going to beat the Rams? No. We saw even when Jared Goff doesn't show up, this team still beats bad teams like they did the Giants, 17-9. So I have a feeling that like even if the Rams don't fully show up 100%, they're a team that's good enough to beat bad teams even when they don't. Like I said, they showed it last week, so I go with the Rams.
Yeah, there's really not a lot to get into this one. On paper, it's obvious that the Rams are far superior to the Washington team. You're starting Kyle Allen against a good defense. Aaron Donald's going to be eating that offensive line alive, and I know they got a decent offensive line, but there's no stopping Aaron Donald. It's a pretty easy pick here. It's the Rams.
Yeah. So, if the game happens, we have Buffalo and Tennessee. Why don't you start out on the outlook of these two teams?
So for this one, while I think Tennessee has gotten off to a decent start in the season, they've hit a pretty big bump. And they haven't been in their facility in over a week, which I think is a huge disadvantage. They haven't really been able to practice. I think with that alone, going against a good Buffalo team that is firing on all cylinders right now, I think no matter what, even if the Titans come out and they are well prepared, which they're not going to be, I think it's pretty easily going to be the Bills.
Hello?
You got any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you repeat the last sentence that you said?
Oh, I just said it's pretty much going to be easily be the Bills because I don't think the Titans are going to be very well prepared given their team situation.
Yeah, I could see that. I think I'd be picking the Bills here anyway.
Same.
It's weird for me to think of the Bills to be a dominant team because I have an issue with their defense, but I really don't see a scenario where like the Titans would just overcome the Bills' offense, if that makes sense. So yeah, I would pick the Bills purely based on that. So, moving on to the Eagles and the Steelers. Man, do we really have to watch the Eagles just suffer like this? I don't think they deserve this. You're playing against like one of the best defenses in the league. You're not looking that great. TJ Watt is going to ruin, and I mean ruin, your injury-riddled offensive line. Bud Dupree is going to be there to cover Zach Ertz. I mean, what's more to say? Like, I feel like this defense is going to smother the Eagles, and the Steelers' offense won't really have to try. Steelers by like 13.
Yeah, that might even be, going easy on the Eagles. I think this one's pretty easily the Steelers. Sorry, guys. The Eagles are not good. That team's injury riddled all to hell. And the Steelers, they also got to keep in mind, they're coming off a week of rest. So, I'd say that's the Steelers.
Yeah. All right. So, the next matchup is the Cardinals and the Jets. In-depth...
Not a lot of good football games this week.
In-depth analysis aside, the Cardinals kind of reared their ugly head of last year in their last two games. I'm not so concerned about it yet because you're playing the Jets. If you lose to the Jets, I'd be concerned. The one thing I will say is, and it's not really that noteworthy, is Joe Flacco is starting. I mean, I don't think he's going to be necessarily an upgrade for the Jets. The quarterback position is not necessarily the problem for the Jets. I think maybe Flacco won't make so many boneheaded mistakes, obviously, but quarterback was never the problem for the Jets, so that doesn't matter much to me, and I think it's an easy pick to say the Cardinals win this game.
As a Cardinal fan, I'm not going to get too in-depth. I'm depressed enough, and I don't feel like depressing myself more. I'm not quite in panic mode yet, but the play calling the last 2 weeks has gone back to the early days of Cliff Kingsbury's tenure, and it hasn't been pretty. So I'll leave that at that. With that being said, I feel like this should and will hopefully be the Cardinals' get-right game. Budda Baker's coming back, which is going to be very, very huge for the Cardinals' defense. He's their best defensive player. He's the guy who's calling the shots on the back end, and that's going to be huge, not having, your fifth-string safety be your starter this week. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in this one. One thing that does make me nervous, and I know it's Joe Flacco, the Cardinals tend to let backup quarterbacks light their ass up. So honestly, I feel like Joe Flacco being in this game is probably an upgrade over Sam Darnold, and maybe that's just me being the woeful abused Cardinal fan, but I'm still going to take the Cardinals, hopefully pretty easy in this one, and they'll end up winning by maybe a late 2 scores.
Alrighty.
Hopefully it's not a late 2 scores. I'm hoping they just beat their ass, but we'll have to see.
All right, so we got the Raiders and the Chiefs. Until further notice, I'm picking the Chiefs for very obvious reasons. If you are watching football, you would know why. That's it. That's all. That's what I got.
That's fair enough. We did see the Chiefs get given a pretty difficult time by the Patriots defense, but obviously that's the Patriots, and the Raiders defense is not the Patriots. Fun fact of the day. So with that being said, I do think the Raiders are playing well this season, but and this is a divisional matchup, but I mean, it's the Chiefs. Overall, I'm going to go Chiefs. I think
it's in Kansas City.
It doesn't really make a difference to me because, number one, no crowd, and number two, it's still the Chiefs, so I was going to pick them anyway. But I feel like this is a game that it's going to be overlooked, and the Raiders are going to be picked to obviously lose, and I'm picking them to lose too, but I think it'll probably be closer than people are thinking. I think the Raiders are a better team than people give them credit for so far.
My point by saying it's in Kansas City is that Kansas City is one of the few teams who allows fans.
That's true.
That was my point. So... yeah, I probably won't pick against the Chiefs again all year. Even when they do pay the bills, I probably won't pick against them. So, Texans and Jaguars.
That's a game. Man, games are bad this week.
Yeah, there's not a bunch of big games this week. I don't know what to say to this because Bill O'Brien was just fired. I am a bad host, and I don't even know who the interim coach for the Texans is going to be.
Man, I knew it.
Oh, Romeo Crennel. Okay.
Romeo Crennel. Yes. Okay.
I guess I should have guessed that because if I remember correctly, Romeo Crennel used to be a head coach, did he not?
Correct.
He used to be a head coach for, I remember, it was both for the Browns and the Chiefs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
yeah.
I remember him being the Chiefs coach, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that doesn't give me any confidence in them. I mean, he's a defensive-minded coach, and he's a defensive-minded coach, and his defense isn't good. But on the other side of the ball, you got to look and ask: do the Jaguars show up? Do they come to play? I think the answer is coin flip. Damn it! This is hard. The Texans got to win a game at some point. And the Jaguars are bad, like bad. But so are the Texans. I'll pick the Texans. I don't like it, but I'll pick Houston. Just because Deshaun Watson's the quarterback.
That's basically where I was going with this one, too. It's all going to depend on which Jaguars team shows up and which Gardner Minshew shows up. But to be quite honest, I don't think it's going to... Like you were saying, the Texans got to win eventually, and I think they have the better weapons and the better quarterback, so I'm just going to give them the edge there. And who knows, maybe Bill O'Brien no longer being the leader of that football team puts a spark under them, and they'll, get their first win. And that's what I'm going to pick for them to do.
All right, cool. So next week is when I think Joe Burrow gets his welcome to the NFL. I had a bad game because he plays Baltimore. So if he was playing the Steelers, I would say this too, by the way. This isn't bias. This is just me recognizing that Baltimore and the Steelers have some of the best secondaries, and you need to be really sharp throwing against these secondaries. Hell, Russell Wilson threw a pick 6 against Baltimore last year. Like, this is not an easy team to throw against unless your name is Patrick Mahomes. I feel bad for Joe Burrow being in this division. This is not the division developing, but he's looked really good. I think he'll have a decent game, but I don't think he'll be able to overcome how stellar of a defense this is. And you're asking Joe Burrow to essentially outscore a Ravens team that has scored 20-plus points in, I think 18 straight games, which is where they lead the league right now. I don't think it's going to happen. So, Ravens.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one for me. It's Ravens. It's hard to pick against the Ravens right now. They're the second best football team in the AFC. I don't have much else to say. It's the Ravens.
So I've been going first on the last few. I'll let you go first on the next three. We got the Dolphins and the 49ers.
Dolphins and 49ers. We talked about this earlier in regard to Tua and Tua not being the starter yet. Obviously, Tua's not starting this week either. And honestly, it's going to be hard to pick this Miami team. I feel like overall they're a decent team. They're competitive, but you don't have the quarterback. And yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick can have those great games every now and then. I mean, we did just see the 49ers lose to a bad Eagles team. So, I mean, I guess this game could really go either way, but I'm going to take the better coached and more talented team. And I know the 49ers are missing a lot of their talent, but I'm going to go with the 49ers here.
Yep. I'm going with the 49ers here, too. I think the 49ers are much better than advertised. And that's mostly because of their coaching. Like Robert Saleh, like Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle came back, Deebo Samuel's back, and Brandon Ayuk made a highlight play, which is nice when your rookies are making highlight plays. So I can't say the same for the Dolphins right now because they won't start their rookie. So... And I anticipate this 49ers defense to take advantage of Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing interceptions. He's always been a mistake-prone QB. I anticipate the same thing here. So, yeah. Next one, which is the Cowboys and the Giants. Take it away.
I know I already said it a couple of times, but holy fuck, there's some bad football games this week.
Let me tell you right now, I think the most exciting matchup this week, it's weird to say, is probably the Colts and the Browns. That's probably the best matchup this week.
Jeez, that's so...
I mean, the Bills and the Titans is a good matchup, but, like, who knows if that game even happens.
Right. You know, I don't like either of these teams, that being the Giants and the Cowboys. I think both of them are bad teams. That being said, it's obviously very, very difficult to stop the Cowboys offense right now. And from what we've seen, it's very, very easy to move the ball on this Giants defense. That being said, Cowboys get a big win. It's probably not going to be close, and everybody's going to be on the America's team train again after this week, I'm sure.
Them boys are back. We them boys.
Really hope Jason Garrett. I really hope Jason Garrett just. I just really hope he blows them up, so we can see the meme of y'all still them boys. Instead of Daniel Jones being on there with the mask, we put Jason Garrett on there with the mask instead.
Just checking in to see if y'all still them boys.
That'd be great.
And then the third one, so you get an exciting one to start off with. Colts and Browns. What you got on this one? I think this is a great matchup.
Overall, yeah, I would say it's a pretty good matchup. The Colts are playing better than I wanted to give them credit for at the beginning of the season. Phillip Rivers has actually been a pretty good quarterback. I love their running back, their rookie running back, Jonathan Taylor. I love him coming out of college. He played at Wisconsin. He was really, really good running back there. That being said, I also really like both the coaches in this game, that being Stefanski and Frank Reich. So I feel like this is actually going to be a pretty close game. This should be a good game against a high-powered offense high-powered in quotations, in the Browns, and then a very well-coached and well-rounded football team in the Colts.
I will tell you one thing that I like about this matchup is the Colts currently are the number one ranked defense because they are the only team in the NFL through 4 games to not have allowed 300 total yards. They've been locked down.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
They have been locked down.
Don't they have Xavier Rhodes too? Didn't they sign Xavier Rhodes? And isn't he playing all right?
Yeah, he's playing pretty decently. I think he has an interception this year already.
Yeah, I did not know that. That kind of changes my thought process a little bit.
This Colts team has been pretty locked down, dude.
So here's what I'm thinking. I think this is going to come down to how well can the Browns run the football in this game. And now they've run the ball very, very well so far this season, but you are missing Nick Chubb, so you are going to have to rely on Kareem Hunt. I think not having the two-headed monster will hurt them a little bit in this game. And I feel like if they're not going to be able to run as effectively if they have, and you are going to make Baker Mayfield throw it, I think going against a really good defense, as they obviously are, it's going to be a little bit tougher. But I really, really like the Browns right now, so it's really hard to pick against them. But I'm going to take the Colts in a close one just due to that defense and the coaching experience.
I think
I'm talking like a 2 to 3 point favorite.
2 to 3 point. I think that sounds pretty fair. I actually, despite being very high on the Browns, was actually going to pick the Colts pretty easily in this one, and it's because the Browns haven't met. I mean, outside of Week 1, where they got clobbered. Outside of Week 1, they haven't met a defense that's necessarily challenged them, right? Let me give you some things on the Colts, okay? So not only have they been the only team to not allow 300 total yards, right? They're allowing 4.4 yards per play, which is the lowest amount by any defense right now. Okay? They also have DeForest Buckner, who has posted 17 quarterback pressures throughout the season so far. That's 4 per game, meaning he's the one causing the quarterback to be under duress. And also, I'm not the PFF kind of guy, right? But the NFL loves to use PFF. Xavier Rhodes is currently the number 3 cornerback in the league, just so you know. And like I said, I believe he has one, if not two interceptions. I think he has one. But either way, so here's the thing: he's allowed 6 first downs to happen in 4 games, but he's also had a combination of interceptions and completions to be at 6. So he giveth and he taketh. He's doing really well. Keep in mind, this is also when Darius Leonard has not been in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're missing one of their best defensive players in Darius Leonard. Now, let's roll back for a second, okay? Let's roll back for a second. The Colts have only played the Jaguars, the Vikings, the Jets, and the Bears. So let's take that in mind, okay? Despite this, I think a defense with DeForest Buckner, Justin Houston, and Grover Stewart, which is a name we will be talking about soon. I know no one really knows who Grover Stewart is right now, but watching the tape, he's a name to watch out for. With those 3 guys, I mean, just DeForest Buckner, Justin Houston alone, and Darius Leonard should grab your attention. I think they're going to clog up the middle, and the Browns won't be able to run, and they're going to force Baker to throw, and they're going to lose when Baker's forced to throw too much. That's my analysis for this game.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I got. Now, I could be totally wrong, and the Browns could, run the ball well, and Philip Rivers could throw 4 interceptions. I don't know. But on paper, that's how I see this matchup going. Next one. Jesus Christ. It's New England and the Broncos. Here's the thing. Brett Rypien was a nice story for the Jets game. But the matter of the fact is he threw 3 interceptions, 1 pick 6. That can't happen against the Patriots. That just can't. You're not going to win against the Patriots doing that. And frankly, I just don't think the Broncos are going to win at all against the Patriots because it's the New England Patriots. Regardless of Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer starting, I'm pretty sure they're going to win this game regardless.
Yeah, for me, this is a pretty easy one to pick. Bill Belichick's just too good of a coach to lose to a team like this. I really don't care who the quarterback is. We saw Bill Belichick keep this team in the game against the best team and best offense in football in the Chiefs. So, yeah, I'm gonna take the Patriots pretty easy in this one.
All right, super hot take for the next one. Sunday Night Football, Vikings-Seattle. Let me tell you right now, okay? I'm going to tell you right now. The Vikings are going to win this game because I'm picking Seattle to beat them in a stomp. Okay? I'm picking Seattle to go first of all, here's some context. I'm currently 1-3 picking Vikings games this season. I can't do it for the life of me. I am 1-3. Whether picking them to win or lose, I'm 1-3. The other side of this, too, is the Seahawks are 4-0. There's got to be a point where they lose, right? There has to be a point where, like, they look mortal for a little bit. I'm picking Seattle to go 5-0 because Russell Wilson is on a tear. He's thrown 16 touchdowns in 4 games, which is insanity. And I really don't see how you stop the Seattle offense, more specifically Russell Wilson, because DK Metcalf has been great. Tyler Lockett has been great. Chris Carson was hurt, and he was still great on Sunday. Mm-hmm. This is not a good matchup for the Vikings. And even in their win, they still allowed 23 points to the Texans. So in other words, their defense still isn't winning. In other words, they won through their offense. And Kirk Cousins hasn't been the worst thing in the world this season. He was pretty terrible his first 2 weeks, but week 3 and week 4, he was fine. He was what he should have been. I anticipate this to be a game where, like, the Vikings score 30, 31 points, and it doesn't matter because their defense, again, lets them down. And people will, again, talk about, well, why couldn't Kirk Cousins do it? And I'll be like, okay, well, why did Kirk Cousins allow 35 points? I don't know. That always seems to be the case. Whenever, like, the Vikings win, it's like, oh, great defensive effort. But when they lose, it's like, why didn't Kirk Cousins stop them from scoring 35 points? That's how it always feels. So, as I said, I'm picking Seattle. But when the score says the Vikings win on Sunday night, consider me not surprised.
Yeah, man, the Vikings have been a real disappointment this season. I thought they
Yes.
were going to be so much better than this. We both did, both being big believers in Kirk Cousins as well. That being said, I can't think of any scenario that the Vikings win this game that unless like Russell Wilson just chooses, hey, I don't feel like playing tonight, which obviously isn't going to happen. Uh, yeah, I honestly can't think of any scenario where the Vikings even have a shot. So, yeah, Seattle easily.
Yeah, I thought so. All right, dude. Why are Monday Night Football games always bad games? Can you tell me that? Like, what? I mean, this week it's not good in the first place, and none of these matchups on paper before the season starts look good. I will admit that. Maybe the Bills and Titans looks good. I think maybe that looks good. Back in April. But regardless, like, why are Monday Night Football games bad? Why do they do this to us? What happened?
That's a good question.
I don't understand. Either way, it's the Saints and the Chargers. It'll actually be nice to see Justin Herbert in primetime, so that's cool. As for the Saints, look, the Saints, I think, did something last weekend that people didn't expect them to, which was they threw the ball deep. Thus kind of silencing the whole "what can't you throw the ball deep" kind of thing. I've always thought it was more, and I remember you were saying, a few weeks ago, hey, Breeze doesn't look great, and I said, hey, hold down the brakes, let's see what the game plan is for the next 4 to 5 weeks. And the game plan has been breached out more now that I think teams, they've gotten used to not having Michael Thomas around. But hilariously, or I should say what's hilarious, not hilariously, what's hilarious is that around the time they've gotten used to not having Michael Thomas is around the time they get him back. Mm-hmm. I think he's supposed to be starting this week, right?
As far as I know, according to my fantasy app too, he's still questionable. He's still nursing that ankle. So at the moment, it's not 100% sure, but I could only imagine it's been 3 weeks now. I can imagine he's probably going to be back this week.
Yeah, because I know he was practicing last week.
Sake.
I know he was practicing last week, and they just didn't, put him in. But I feel like this week, he should be in this week. But either way, this is an enticing matchup in the sense of you don't really know who's going to show up. Just the Justin Herbert that dropped 31 points on the Bucs show up? Because if so, the Chargers have a real good shot of winning this game. On the other side, I'm not going to rely on a rookie quarterback to consistently drop 30 plus points. That's not anything against Justin Herbert. That's just the reality of the NFL. I would, however, trust a Drew Brees-led Saints team who was down 14-0 and then won the game 35-24. Yes, I know they did it against the Lions. You can say that. But the point is they were down 14 points and they won the game through the air. Right? They won a game with Drew Brees at 41 or 42 through the air. I wish you could see my hand motions right now, but I am not freaking out about Drew Brees' state because he just proved on Sunday he can still do it. Maybe not to the extent that he used to be able to in his prime, but if he can get it done, you get it done whatever way you need to win. So, yeah, I anticipate the Saints to be 3-2 after this week, beating the Chargers.
You were saying this game doesn't look all that good on paper. Honestly, this isn't too bad of a matchup, I think. I think the Chargers they're obviously not a great team, but I don't think they're better than they're given credit for. They got pretty good players on defense, and they got as well as really good weapons on offense. Keenan Allen is very quietly having an awesome season. Justin Herbert is controlling that offense fairly well. So I feel like this game will actually be a little bit closer than most people think. And honestly, you know what? Sometimes you gotta pick the upset if you want to win the pick'ems, man. And I'm gonna go Chargers.
You're gonna go Chargers.
I'm gonna go Chargers.
Oh boy, are you just a Drew Brees hater at this point in your life?
No, dude, I'm not. Drew Brees, I think, when it comes to strict quarterback play alone and not accomplishments, I say Drew Brees is probably the best quarterback of all time. And trust me, I need Drew Brees to play well. I got Michael Thomas on my fucking fantasy team. I need 20 points this week, damn it. But I don't know. I just kind of like what the Chargers are doing. I like what Justin Herbert's doing. And I think the Saints are not quite the super amazing powerhouse that they maybe were the last couple of years. And I think this is a team that can get got.
That's all fair. That is totally fair. So that's it for us this week. And by the way, we finished our timing at exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's now ticking at 8 seconds now. Nice. So we met our goal of an hour and a half. For those listening, thank you so much for sticking around. We hope to, how do I put this? We hope that you are enjoying your stuff. And if you are listening, and still listening to what I'm saying right now, feel free to interact with us. We've had a couple people interact with the show already. That's kind of cool. I'd appreciate if more people interacted with us. I like hearing from people. I like seeing things. I know Pardue over here gets a lot of interaction from his Arizona fans, so that's cool. I like it a lot. It's fun to do this stuff. I enjoy talking with him every Wednesday. I know he enjoys talking with me every Wednesday, so it's a good time. So I'd just like to say, for the consistent 15, 20 people that we get, thanks for sticking around. You got anything?
Well, we forgot to do our pick results again.
We did forget to do our pick results again. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write it on the board right here. Week 6. Pick results. There we go. Week 6 pick results. Now I know to put them up for the year. If I remember correctly from week 4, because I did not do week 5s for us. If I remember correctly, I was at 44 on the season, and I think you were at 42 for the season.
Keeping pace. We keeping pace. I'm going to get one back on that Chargers game, so we're good.
You get one back on the Chargers game? All right.
Oh, I know I'm getting one back on the Chargers game, so all right.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, that's going to be it from us. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys all have a wonderful morning, day / night, whenever you're listening to this too. See you next week.